So, guys, will we ever dance again? Right? So, I'm trying to navigate everybody. Oh, my camera is a bit crooked. Hang on. I'm trying to navigate everybody through this end of the short season where Satan is loosed, through this tribulation, and even maybe we're already in the lake of fire because we see that so many things are happening, but also these things are happening for a reason, because everything that is happening is bringing everything that is in darkness to the light, right? Welcome you all. Hi Emma, Patty, Monica, hi from Belgistan, and Emma again. So guys, I've been making a lot of shorts again, and all the footage I find, it's not that I spent days looking for a video here and there. No, it's everywhere. It's not just randomly here a video, there a video. It's you cannot open up social media or you see these things, right? And let me tell you, it's not always easy to spend your whole day watching at this stuff because it is draining, right? But I still want to do it. By the way, my whole walk over the last years as being a preacher has not been easy, right? Many believe, well, if you become a pastor or a preacher, right, you're going to have this beautiful life, right? But no, that's not it. Maybe it used to be that way, but we're living in such a perilous times at the moment that you have to be strong. You have to stand strong in your shoes, and you have a little bit of a backbone to enter into this darkness, so you can show it. So many people don't want to look at it. I also noticed that my views go down on my shorts, uh, partly because YouTube doesn't promote these videos, and also partly because people just don't want to hear it. Right? Oh, it's so uncomfortable watching these things the whole time, right? Well, try doing this for years, right? People never believe me, by the way. In 2000, what was it, 14, 15, when they started to lay out these rainbow bricks on the road, right, for the pedestrian pass over, right? They used to be black and white. Now it was a rainbow. And that was where I made my first video ever on an old YouTube channel. And I was already telling people this is the beginning of something much worse, right? And people say, no, it's just about tolerance. We just want to make these gay people feel welcome. That's all it is, Chris. But now, years later, we have seen what happened with the upcoming of the whole woke stuff, the LGBTQ stuff. Same thing with Islam, right? In the Netherlands and when I lived in England, right? Even Christians told me, no, Chris, we have to be tolerant, right? Jesus says, even love your enemies, Chris. They're just a small minority. It won't be a problem. And look what's happening now, right? So it's not that I am a psychic that I can see in the future. Well, I can see in the future, but it's only because I understand Scripture and I look at what's happening going on. And if you do that and you use common sense, you do see things coming, right? And it's going to get worse, right? So why is it all getting worse? Well, because our own people, most of them are still blind. They still are eating of the fruit of knowledge of good and evil, right? But basically is liberalism, right? And every time our people accepted liberalism and created empires, because of this liberalism, these empires fell. It always started with the society starts to thrive. So now you allow other peoples in as laborers, right? And then after a while, they're going to intermarry, intermix, right? Equal rights, voting rights. And this was every single time. This is how the white people's empires fell, whether it is Egypt or Babylon, or North India, all these empires fell. Now, I heard someone say the other day, well, white empires do always fall, but the white man also rebuilds these empires. Well, that's not exactly true, because when you look at North Africa, that used to be white empires, right? And they were not rebuilt by the white people. In fact, they are still third world countries, just like India that fell. The white man did not rebuild it. It is now a third world country, right? Just like Turkey. The Turks have only been living there for 1100 years as a nation, right? It used to be the Byzantine Empire, a Roman European empire. And also that was never rebuilt, right? And it is now modern day Turkey, right? So where are we now? Because our Western societies, whether it is Europe, America, Canada, South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, these empires are falling now down again. Will we rebuild it? Well, um, I think the way we're headed now is that we are facing another reset, right? Because things are so much more worse than people realize. And most people still are under this uh, emotional bondage of don't be a racist. Right? Oh, you have to be tolerant. Even the Christians, no, no, we have to love everybody, right? And that's why I show all these videos in my shorts, right? To show people from look at it. Many of you already know these things. Sometimes people react and they say, um, well, there's nothing new. Well, I'm glad that I get comments like that, because that means that finally people do see it, right? But a few years ago, nobody told me that's old news, Chris, right? But it's getting out there. And even though social media is heavily trying to stop it, you have to constantly mind what you say. But the strange thing is, for example, on TikTok, I shared videos which I found on TikTok, but when I shared them, video removed. But I posted one thing, and I expected this is going to be removed within a few hours. But it has now been up for a while, and it has 25,000 views and a few thousand likes and comments, right? So that only means that there are a lot of people who do see it, right? But the media tries to tell you it's just a small group of far right people. No, no, there is an awakening happening, but we are not there yet, because the vast majority still thinks that liberalism is the way to go, right? Hi, Vilbreak. So, you know, many channels, they talk about these problems, right? Or even political channels or short season of Satan channels. They all identify, for example, the short season, the kingdom. They talk about the past and these buildings, but you can talk about the past and there were giants, and that might be true, right? But none of them address what's actually happening today, right now, and what we can do about it, right? Also, political discussions, they talk and talk and talk, but nothing actually happens, right? And it's coming to a point that most of you already see it, but that we all need to see that it is about us as a race, as a people, right? And that all peoples, like the Bible says, will turn against us, right? Well, I've been talking about black people a lot in my shorts, but guys, there is an obvious agenda, not just using the black people, also Arab people and all kinds of peoples, right? But there is a clear agenda to change history. Um, for example, there is a new movie with an actor called Steve McQueen. No, that is not the Steve McQueen we knew from the old videos. It is a black man from Africa. He's also called Steve McQueen. I think he even won an Academy Award for a new movie about the Second World War, where a black soldier rescues a black child from London because Germany wanted to bomb London, right? So It's all propaganda. Have you seen that new movie about how black women caused America to win the Second World War? Because without these black women, America would not have won the war, right? But there is an opposition. There is an opposition to this black box, but it is heavily censored, right? They want you to accept this new narrative, right? And it is a form of narcissism, right? You say nothing. You tiptoe around, you walk on eggshells, and you adhere to the emotions and the feelings of other peoples and other religions. Otherwise, we cannot call you names, right? White Israelite says, I look forward to the Israelite awakening. All tribes reunited in Christ. Yes, that would be an awesome day. But you can talk about all these other peoples all day long, and I show also videos all day long. But in the end, it's like I always say, it's us. If we were still united in Christ, we would still understand that we are a people and that we have a Messiah, we have a King, we have a Lord. All this would not have happened, right? But in the 1800s, they vowed to de-Christianize the West and to bring us in this Marxist liberalism, which is now causing the end. And we're now in tribulation. And still, many people won't see it, right? Too many people choose comfort over truth. That's why they don't want to look at it. They ignore it because we have been brought under a system that is only about you making as much money as you can, getting rich, getting a nice house, driving a nice car. That's all what it's all about. And so many people put their faith in Trump. But what I notice is that on the one hand, I think, okay, he is on our side, he's doing good stuff. And at the same time, he's doing stuff that goes against us. That is very confusing, right? But in the end, all politicians, they don't really care about us as a people or our history of our inheritance. They care about economy, right? But none of them realize that economy cannot be. It will collapse if we don't stop all this liberalism, right? Because Republicans are very liberal too, right? Even though they sound conservative, right? So why, even though there is a lot of opposition against this blackwashing of history, Afrocentrism, why there is opposition, right? A lot of people are waking up, right? So why do they keep on going anyway? Why do they keep pushing this, even though people clearly say we don't want this, we don't believe this? Well, the reason for that is they understand and they know that if they just keep pushing it, and our generation will be gone, the new generation will grow up, and they will see black statues everywhere. They have been brought. Now they have a new standard in the schools talking about Afrocentrism, right? You already see it in English schools. No more Christianity, but these children have to go to a mosque and learn about Muhammad, right? So they always work through the generations, right? And that is exactly what happened in the 1800s, right? There was a reset in the 1800s, but there were still many people around who understood who they were in the history, right? And therefore, there is a huge possibility that indeed the ones who still stood for who they truly were, they were put in these asylums, right? I do believe that. So the next generations would understand nothing. And it only takes one or two generations to change an entire narrative, right? Look what's happening in New York. Have you seen these statues of bronze black women put up, right? And they look like common women, right? Not queens, no, just an ordinary black woman. But I don't know if you saw my short. The same thing they did in Rotterdam in the Netherlands. It's the same statue, a black woman just standing there. Also in Italy, a black woman holding an iPhone. They make now statues, right? There is a clear agenda, not just America or not just England. It is the entire West. Everywhere where the European people built nations, they are now under attack. But many people still think, yeah, but we have to find ways to make it work. We have to stop racism. We have to bring in more liberalism, more anti-racist laws, right? But they want to protect the other races and their feelings on what expense? On their own expense, right? That is what's so crazy, right? Also, our politicians, they want the economy to grow on our own expense as a people, right? Keir Starmer has now made a deal with India. India can send as many people as they want because he says these Indians are smart, they are good for the economy. Well, that is exactly what Elon Musk said. He wanted to do the same thing. It's good for the economy, right? So they don't care about us as a people. It's only about economy, right? But they try to do the same thing in Babylon and the Roman Empire, and that caused the destruction always. Because a culture, a country is built by a certain people. So if these certain people are gone and there are different people there, the majority of only, these countries will change, right? I mean, it is nothing to do with hate. That is just the way it is, right? And you can see the Suriname and Haiti and South Africa, right? The Roman Empire, Babylon. Look at all these nations. They come in a working system so they can have a job, but every time we gave them the equality and voting rights and they took over, it fell every single time, guys. But we don't want to learn from history, right? So, like I said, we can talk about other people all day long, but look at our own people. I've been watching some videos in the Netherlands, from the Netherlands on YouTube. And when I look back, in the 90s and the computer came up, suddenly, and not just Holland, by the way, but white people in the West, they didn't want to make their hands dirty no more, right? Everyone wanted to be a computer engineer. Everyone wanted to have a desk job, right? And when you look at these people now, right, who came up in the 90s, they're now what, 50, 60, 40, 50, 60 years old, right? Many of them walk around in a suit and they have these small, soft hands, right? They can't even sweep the front yard without getting blisters, right? And these men are now liberal, right? And they don't have a problem at all with what's happening, right? It is just crazy, right? And then you have also many white people in Holland and in England. They basically have a brains, right? The drunk all day, they don't do anything. The living off of benefits themselves, right? You said, yeah, even these white kids acting like gangsters. They want to be black. And guys, we are doing this ourselves. We allowed all this to happen, right? So, and many of them don't want to be confronted with any form of truth. It is not healthy to look at these things all day. Trust me. I'm doing it for the sake of preaching, but it's not a good place to be, and it takes a lot out of you. It is really hard, right? Some people already get distressed by one video, but I spent hours making that one video, and I make hundreds of videos, right? So, but you cannot ignore it, right? That ostriches put their head in the sand, so they can see the trouble, but the trouble is still there, right? So we're not at a time of peace and love at the moment, guys. It is horrible. I just posted a short of a migrant in France, and a white couple is walking through the park with a baby. Baby is a few months old, and there is this migrant, probably from the religion of peace, and he starts screaming at the couple, and he fully, with his hand, hit the baby, and you could hear the noise, the pats, yeah, I don't know, maybe because it's white baby or Christian, right? But on the other hand, maybe these white people voted for this. They thought we could love them. because we're all equal, and now we are getting this. And why is people say, well, if God is there, why is he doing anything? No, he is doing something. You don't want to listen to him. You know everything better. You want to ignore the problems. Now look, this is what's happening, right? So this whole idea that we basically are already in the lake fire just means that we are being put in a fire to, like gold being dirty gold being molten, so the impurities come up. And isn't that exactly what's happening, guys? Because if God would fix everything tomorrow, people will immediately start doing the same things that caused these problems. So it has to come to a point that we have no choice but to confess that Jesus is Lord and bow down to the glory of God the Father, right? God is not mocked, guys. We are reaping what we have sowed, right? So we can blame all people all day long, but we did this, right? Also, Keir Starmer, right? He's a white man. I think he's married to a Jewish lady, but how? No one can be that stupid. It is a spiritual warfare, right? For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and high places. This is exactly what it's talking about. It's a spiritual warfare because no one can be so irresponsible and stupid at the same time as Keir Starmer is, right? We are truly um, in the age of the Antichrist, right? All these white people carry the spirit of the Antichrist, right? So I was driving around in Houston, and I wanted to listen to some music, and you don't hear any conservative radio, and if it's conservative, it is very moderate conservative. But the majority of radio stations here in Houston are very Marxistic, liberal, right? And they always talk about, look, Trump is so racist, and we have to get rid of racism, right? So there was this radio channel with music, and there's always an interview with musicians, right? And they're older musicians, maybe 60, 70, 75, right? And they always talk about how wonderful it used to be, right? When he was younger, right? He went on tour. He went to Dallas, Memphis, and Houston. And back then, he had a great band, right? He had a guy from Cuba who was a very good drum player. And he had a bass player, a black guy. Oh, he was a fantastic bass player. And I understand that, right? I mean, anyone can be talented playing a musical instrument. In fact, when I grew up, I loved Ray Charles, at least his music, right? And also as a piano player, I loved Oscar Peterson. He's an amazing jazz player, right? Piano player. So, but the problem is these old musicians, they still think they live in the 80s or the 90s when there were relatively few artists who more or less were better integrated, right? But we're not living in this time now. Because while these liberal radio channels talk about we have to stop racism, me as a European man driving around in Houston, and I looked it up on Google, it is over 65% Hispanic, right? So Houston is an Hispanic city now, right? They are the vast majority. And then the rest is like 15% black, which I don't believe. I think it's much more. And then 15% white. But if you consider the fact that they say that Arabs and Jewish people and mixed white people are also white, you'll understand that Houston is not 15% European. It's maybe 5%. And but they keep on, yeah, but you can be racist. So how can they not worry about this? How is it possible that they don't care about this, right? Because I can go to any city in America, and even though they say, well, only 15% of America is black, right? Well, not in the cities. That percentage in the cities is much higher, right? The other day, I went to deliver some food. Um, and often here we have these gated communities with nothing but black people. You don't see white people living there. It's only black people. They live together in these housing. I think it's a form of projects, right? A form of social housing, but it is gated. Um, and even though I feel safe, I'm not scared, but you do feel it. It's like driving in a whole other world. The energy, everything is different, right? Also, I had to pick something up at the McDonald's. The restaurant was closed, so I had to wait in line at the drive-through, and then there's few cars in front of you, and I'm the only European man in that line from the 12 cars. And then in front of me, a bunch of black people smoking weed, and I could smell it coming in my car through my AC, and then you see them opening the windows, throwing empty cans just out of the window, and I'm dealing with it every day. But also, I saw at a traffic stop, someone threw out all kinds of garbage in the street. These were white men. These white men are, many of them are not better, right? So what happened to our beautiful, safe, clean society? It is disappearing. But all this musician can say that we have to stop racism because in the 70s he had a great uh, drummer from Cuba. Guys, we're not living in that time no more, right? And yes, if you have some Mexicans with some great skills and you want to hire them, right? For example, here around the corner, there is Mexicans who are very good at training horses. They train those horses like dogs. They're really good, and they make good money because uh, they work for these rich people who own horses, and they train them. They have no problem with that. The problem is that um, everywhere we build homes, whether it is in America, Canada, Europe, it's no longer our home, right? And don't tell me that no, it's just skin color. It doesn't matter. We're all the same. It should be obvious that we are not the same, because we are. If we are truly all the same, why do we even have this discussion, right? Why is there even a thing called racism, right? If we are truly all the same, then we would have been the same already. But it is not going to change, no matter how many Afrocentric propaganda material they put out there. No matter they call you names, it's not going to change. It's only making things worse. Patty says, I have been self employed, one man company for the last 3 years, but I could no longer pay the cost. Now I'm dependent on government help. They make my life difficult while foreigners get all free. Yeah. In England, they raised the taxes and the prices to the point that English people cannot afford the cost of living no more. Right? There are many homeless veterans, many people on the verge of becoming homeless, elderly people who could not heat their homes in the wintertime. Why? Because they raised the taxes so much because they need billions of dollars housing illegals, putting them in fancy hotels, building houses for them, giving them free money, right? Hi, Lam from Canada. Welcome. So, talking about Canada, by the way, you see that a lot of Republicans, Trump supporters, are being sucked in, right? And if you vote for Trump, you're free to do that, but always watch carefully. Don't just get sucked into everything, because now I hear Americans say, "Oh, those Canadians are gonna get it now. They have used us with the terror." No, the Canadian people did not do anything. They just wanted to live in a country just like Americans want to live in their country, right? They are our brothers, right? And what these corrupt governments do has nothing to do with Canadians. Same thing with Americans. Now, those damn Europeans, they have been living off us this whole time, right? They wanted our protection. We're gonna get those. No, these Europeans didn't do anything. It's the government. I even hear Dutch people always say, the Americans did it. The Americans didn't do anything. It's the governments, guys. But they want to separate us. They want to put us together. Look what happened in the wars. How many white people killed each other. Look at what happened in the American Revolution. How brother killed brother. That's what they always want to do, guys. We have to start waking up to all this, right? Guys, in a city like Brussels, Brussels is basically the headquarters of the European Union. And new numbers came out. 88% of people in Brussels under the age of 20 is non-European. That means African or Arab and Muslims, right? 88%, guys, already. And you think, Jesus said we have to love our enemies, right? Yes, Jesus said love our enemies, had nothing to do with Islam. That is how we should interact with each other, right? Guys, the next generations are lost. Now there is this new thing going on TikTok where a black lady came out saying that all people with red hair, gingers, they are all black people, right? And even not all, but many white people think, wow, that's amazing. Because red people, they say that they always felt left out, no one liked them, they were bullied in school, right? And now that they realize that they are black, they understand that. And now they feel that they belong somewhere. Right? Fortunately, there are a lot of people who are making mocking videos about it, but there are some videos out there, white people embracing it, right? But this is just another thing. They attack us on every level. Yes. Well, a ginger doesn't make you an African, right? And it is true that there are some people in America who are mixed and have black DNA, right? But these Scottish red-haired women and men are not Africans, guys. But people believe everything. You make one video, and especially black people, they run away with it, right? You only have to tell black people, we are the true Hebrews, and they believe it immediately, right? Guys, it is, some people say, well, just let them, if that makes them feel better. But the implications, that is so dangerous, guys. Yeah, Emma, I know you're smart enough to not to buy all that crap they put out there, guys. So we have to go through this tribulation, guys. Many Christians think, well, the whole world. No, it has nothing to do with the whole world. The whole third world was always a shithole. They always were warring each other. It's about our nations. That signals the end times, right? And Jesus said the last days will be like it was never before and will never be like that, right? You can say, well, it was in the first century. But when you look at our Western nations, the state they're in, this never, ever happened before, right? So we have to start waking up to this, right? But yeah, it is not easy. It is hard, guys, because I'm doing this all day long, watching all that stuff, and I can feel it. I can feel it in my spirit, in my stomach. But yeah, you have to do it. I have to do it. I have no choice. God called me out to do this, and I have no choice, right? Even though YouTube doesn't want monetize my channel, I'm held back, right? Um, Even white people hate me. The hatred I have to, the comment, the passive aggressive comments also, that all that years, you feel it. So you have to be really strong, and it requires a lot of prayer, right? But we cannot give up, right? But if I die one of these days, then at least I can say that I did not live just for my own sake, right? I died, but at least I believed in something, right? And how many people nowadays will die and they can say that they stood for something that is right, even though it was hard, right? Most people are gonna die, not caring, only caring about their own life, right? Okay, let's go to the comments. Monica says, it's so depressing, but God has brought these people against us to wake us up to who we are. Yes, Monica, right? We have to, it has to come to a point that people start to see it, and people are starting to see it, but we are not there yet. When I look at the comments I get on TikTok too, and the videos, right, about so many people are still so racist, and just can't see it. By the way, I made a video which I found on YouTube about a parade of thousands of women in England marching in burqas, thousands. And then I put a picture on top with a few white women, or like someone says, they look like they had a lot of bagels. But anyway, they hold up a sign. Uh, there is no room for hate here. And at the same time, thousands of these burqas are marching. And YouTube took down that video. Well, it's just a footage of what's actually going on, right? But they took it down. So that's a tactic, discouragement, and also they did a study that, do you know that being ignored, and that includes social media holding you back in your ministry, in your videos, but also people on social media, especially on Facebook, you see it, that they ignore you. And studies have shown that being ignored has the same chemical effect on your brain as literally being hit in the face. So I've been hit in the face now for hundreds of thousands of times, basically non-stop, right? So, but that's a tactic Satan uses, right? Whether it is through social media or whether it is through Christians, because there are still a lot of Christians who think I'm a hater, and right. So I just wonder how much more must happen before people just wake up, right? And this whole thing with that white lady who put her middle finger up to that guy who was filming her and called him the N-word multiple times. That is basically white people just say, I had enough. Because I made a video about this. I don't know if you saw it, but it has nothing to do with the N-word. Black people are not offended by the N-word. They are offended if you start using it. Why? Because the N-word is a weapon against you. So you don't say anything to them. You don't call them out. And this is how they held power over your spirit. Because now you have to tiptoe around. Now you have to watch every word you say. You have to walk on eggshells constantly so they feel better about themselves. And if you say, you know what, this is pure narcissism, I can't live like this. I just want to be able to express myself. They get angry. And that's the reason that they get so angry, right? Phil Brake says, Emma, I'm a ginger with 2 ginger grandsons. One did his DNA. He's 54% Welsh, 30% English, Scottish, Irish, the rest Northern European. No African DNA. Yes. But again, a lot of white people, they see that and they immediately believe it, right? And if I make videos to explain it, TikTok is holding it down. So if you say, oh, I am a ginger, turns out I'm African, they have literally hundreds of thousands of views and likes. But if I explain it, then I have 300 views. That's it on TikTok, right? So it's, but I'm not gonna let anybody discourage me, right? This whole ministry I've been doing now, ever since I left the Netherlands, right? It is not easy, guys. All these pastors in the velvet suits, getting all those tithes, and even those with private jets. That is because they preach lies. They are of the world. Or do you think that Joe Osteen is so blessed with all the money because he preaches truth? No, these are worldly churches, right? And if you want to be um, rewarded by the world, you have to be like the world, right? And if you want to follow Christ, Christ says you're going to be persecuted and the world will hate you, right? So if you have it on your heart to start what I'm doing, just a heads up, it's not going to be easy, right? Financially, spiritually, mentally, it is draining. But I do it out of love. Love for white people? No, I don't like white people at all, right? Do I have a love for my forefathers? Yes, I do. Do I have a concern about our future generations? Yes, I do. But the current white men, I don't like them at all. Some say, Chris, why don't you move away into a white um, area and aren't you going to be much happier? No, no. I already tried that. I already lost everything willfully to do that. And they spit me out because of what I teach. I'm a racist and I don't believe this doctrine. And, I just use common sense and they hate me for it. So if I would move away and would go into a white area tomorrow, they will spit me out in no time. No one would care about me. No one would even want to hear what I have to say. The pastors wouldn't want to talk to me, leave alone the congregation. So if I ever would want to live in a white nation, I first want to see that these white people get real again, right? Also, there is a lot of these white groups, right? Who go against the blacks and all these other. Also, I don't want to live among them because they are focusing on adversary against the Jewish people or the Jewish agenda, I should say, and against the blacks, and they're against everybody. But I never see anything of how they would do it then. Because I know a lot of people, they say, I want to get rid of the blacks, I want to get rid of these people, we want to just have a white country. Yeah, but they wouldn't even know what to do with it, right? I can see it. I can see the mentality of white people, right? Most of them only care about making money, and the others are just about hate, even each other, right? Now, we have to go through a lot more before people really, really start to act within the Spirit of Christ again, right? By the way, if you want to support me, send me. Sometimes it happens. Praise God. If you want to support my ministry, my email address is in the description box. You can use my email for my PayPal, or you can send me a Cash App. I appreciate it. Sometimes when it happens, I would truly appreciate that, guys. Right? Monica says, Vilbreak, it's been about the same time for me too. It was the biggest surprise ever. All religions have hidden the truth of our inheritance. Exactly, Monica. Hi, Karen from South Africa. Good to see you. Good evening. I'm late. These time zones get to me every time. Well, I started a little bit earlier today as well, Karen, because I need to go out and do something today. And so I thought I start a little bit early. And if you're here for the first time, welcome. Welcome to the channel where I discuss everything, right? Scripture and also the current state, the future, the past, everything, right? I might be the only channel who does that, by the way, right? And that doesn't also make it easier for me because most channels focus on one topic, right? So they get an audience who are drawn to that one topic. But because I talk about so many different things, it's hard to get one audience because there's always people who agree with one thing but then leave because they don't agree with another thing, right? Paddy says, Chris, are you still in contact with Brother Sparks? Last time I spoke with him, that is quite a while ago, but maybe soon we can contact each other again. Maybe make a video together again. Right? A lot of people would like the videos I made with him, and if you haven't seen them, it's on my channel. It's conversations with Christopher because he translated the Bible. It took him 25 years to do it, and we talked about his translation, right? So, but yeah, Chris is still on my heart, right? And in God's timing, we will speak with each other again. Hi, Loyal. Welcome. Loyal Tangi says. So, what else can we do, guys? Can we just ignore everything, right? Listen, I was talking about this musician who talked about in the 70s. He had this band with black musicians, Cuban musician. It was also wonderful, right? And by the way, when I grew up in the 80s, I loved the Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor movies, right? I loved um, Eddie Murphy, right? But it was a whole different time, right? When I go now looking around, I see no white people no more. And that concerns me because this whole thing was created by white people through the Spirit of Christ, right? Now people have the Spirit of Christ no more. They don't care no more. They have now the Spirit of the Antichrist, liberalism, and everything is fallen apart, right? So just like Christians say, well, all you have to do is convert them, right? Just like Bob the Builder from England. He literally said, I don't care about the English people. I only care about Christians. In other words, all these millions of Muslims and Africans coming in, you just have to convert them, right? But let me ask you a question, right? Let's say all the black people suddenly will change. They will suddenly be true Christians. It's not possible because Christianity is a covenant, right? Not a religion. But okay, let's say they all integrate, they stop using that strange lingo they have, they will be just like you, and suddenly Muslims, oh, they all convert to Christianity, right? Be honest. Would that make you happy? Because that means that your race will disappear, right? So is that because Christians say, well, if we preach hard enough, we keep yelling Jesus to them, in the end, everything will change. But will it really? Because we see now when all these groups get to a point that they become majority, they don't care about your Christianity anymore, right? So let's say that entire America is now solely African and Arab, but they all are now peaceful. Would that make you happy? Right? First of all, it will never happen. It will not happen. And the proof is in the pudding. You can see it, look around, right? And don't be deceived by black people who have a good job and a suit because also they don't like you. It's a very thin veneer. They dress like you, they talk like you, they drive in the same cars, they even have good jobs, but it's only on the outside, guys. Right? I can talk to a black pastor for 2 minutes and he will get into a rage fit. By me not even saying mean stuff, just the truth. Right? That's how thin that. Even the Christian black leaders, you know, guys, we have to start waking up. Christianity is not a religion; it's a covenant. Right? You cannot bring goats into a sheepfold. Right? And it is very rare that these goats honor the sheep and honor the father of those sheep, the sheep herder. But most of them don't care about the sheep at all. These are goats who they want to be the sheep. And in order to be the sheep, they have to get rid of the real sheep so all the goats can come in the sheepfold. Right? This is exactly what's happening, guys. Phil Brake says Karen is not being covered much in the media, not in Britain anyway, goes against the narrative. Guys, I heard that Trump signed an executive order, or whatever you call it, where persecuted white South Africans get they can get an immigration status because the black South African government has vowed to steal and take away all the land of the white farmers, right? And also many white farmers are being unalived. Whole families are being brutally unalived in South Africa. So Trump said that they can come to America. And now there is this outrage that is so racist. It's only for white people. Yes, because these black people are killing them. That's why Trump offers them a solution to come to America. Nothing to do with racism, guys. When are we gonna wake up, guys? All the Disney characters, old German stories, they're all being blackwashed now. The Little Mermaid, right? Now, war movies are being it's all African now. We have black statues. Guys, these black people say that they have been here before the white man, and the black people lived all over the world. Well, it is true. The black people were here before God formed Adam, because the black people have been living here for thousands, hundreds of thousands of years potentially, right? And we know from scripture that God formed Adam only 6,000 years ago, right? And also, I heard a black guy say, we were everywhere. No, that is also not true, because yes, there are black people living in Australia, the Aboriginals, but the Aboriginals are not the same black kind as people from Nigeria. Also, the black race from Papua New Guinea are not the same people as people from Africa. Also, the Hottentots, the Bushmen from South Africa, they are not the same as the Bantus. You have many different black races, right? But the fact that they all have black skin does not mean they are all the same, right? But ever since the garden, and that's why I believe that the Nakash was a black man, or at least a fallen one who made it with one of them. And we know that the Bible gave dominion to Adam, and he beguiled Eve. He probably was very eloquent, right? Like the black men in suits nowadays. No, we just like you, right? You know, you're so racist. That is so racist. You're a supremacist. Let's make each other equal. Let's live in harmony. And I believe that's what happened in the garden. And that's why everything became so wicked and mixed up that God flooded that whole region and started over with Noah, who was still perfect in his genealogy from Adam. He was still a real Adamite. The rest was destroyed. And this is a theme all through history. Every time we became amalgamated with them, because they don't build anything, the only way for them to thrive is to come in your nations, right? And then they want to be equal. And once you make them equal, now they want the whole pie. Now they start to say that they are the real builders, right? And every time this happened, our nations fell. Every time it's happening again, guys. Right? Not just blacks, it's Muslims. It's Now I saw videos from Chinese people going against us, and I'm like, what did we ever do to you? I have no problem with Chinese people. And by the way, you never hear anything on the news. Oh, this Chinese man burgled this house, or he robbed this store. You never hear that. They're here in small numbers. They do their own thing, right? They want to stay separate. We have no problem with them, right? It is one race who mixed themselves with whites, which became the Arabs, right? Because Arabs are a mix of white and Jewish and black, right? And these Arabs and the Negroes, they want to attack. They want what you have, right? Because Arabs also never built anything. Oh, what about North Africa? What about Egypt? What about the Middle East? Now, they didn't build that. This whole Islamic idea was formed in the 7th century, right? And now, after that, you had this Arab invasion, and they had black slaves, and they amalgamated, right? Now the Arabs took over the whole Middle East and North Africa. They moved in, but they didn't build these nations. These nations were already there, just like Asia Minor, right? That was the Byzantine Empire. These were white European people with the capital city Constantinople. And in the 11th century, the Turks took it over after it was weakened because the Edomites moved in that region and moved into the Khazar, and they caused the collapse of that empire. And once it was weakened and collapsed, this is where the Turks easily just marched in and took it over and renamed Constantinople into Istanbul. And the biggest, largest mosque they have there used to be a Christian church. So they didn't build anything, they just moved into nations which are weakened. And that is exactly what's happening now in Europe. Right? The white people have walked away from God. They're all so spoiled, rotten to the bone, spoiled. They take everything for granted. They grow up and they say, oh, we're free and it will be forever. No. People have been through a lot. The forefathers have been through a lot to establish this freedom, right? But now everyone is on the phone all day, right? Laying on the couch, watching Netflix, right? Going to a job, right? They're all weak. They don't care anymore, right? So they get exactly what they asked for. That's why it's coming to an end, right? Because also corrupt governments. Many still vote for Labour Party, right? Because we can't be racist, right? So now we installed leaders who invite the whole world into England, right? It's all in God's plan, guys. I don't want to depress you, but what else can God do? If I were God, I would probably do the same thing because I understand what's happening, right? I mean, if nothing happens, we will just be more and more complacent, more and more lazy, right? Let's get a chip in your brain. You don't even need a phone anymore. You can just lay on bed all day and watch internet stuff, right? Watch all this propaganda. Guys, it has to come to an end, right? And even though people like me have been trying to preach to people now for years, right? People didn't care, right? They prefer the comfortable brainwash, the soothing propaganda, right? So don't give up, guys. Try to find a balance, right? Because I know this too. It is very hard. I'm 50 years old and I start from scratch, basically. And everything has changed so rapidly over the last few years. Right? 10 years ago, it was very easy to start a new career, go to school, right? But now it's hard, especially when you preach at the same time. It's harder to get a job, especially if you don't have education. Um, they just don't hire you anymore, especially if you're white, right? Not to complain, you don't have to feel sorry about me, but America is now a place with nothing but putting you in a low vibration, right? It's a non-stop political strife, Republicans against Democrats. It is a non-stop economical pressure, right? It is a non-stop paycheck to paycheck for so many people. It is a non-stop threat of war. Oh, Iran this, Russia that, Palestine. It is a non-stop low vibration they put people in. It is constantly keeping people in suspense. Oh, now we got a president who's gonna fix everything, but it never really happens, right? Also, what you see with the migrants, yes, they are deporting illegals, right? So you can get a million, maybe possibly a million out, or maybe even 5 million, but you still would have 150 million non-Western people living illegally. So it won't change anything, guys. And even if you get rid of all the criminals and all the violent people, right, then still we would change forever. It's already beyond repair because the people who are peaceful, they are here in such a large numbers, and he made children in such an amount that we are just dissipating. We are just disappearing, guys. And yeah, we probably only like maybe 4% left. They say the white people is only 9%, 7% left. Yes, but like I said, they counter many people who are not true European also as being white. So the true European people who still have the Celtic, Anglo-Saxon, Germanic blood running through their veins, they are just disappearing, right? But try to keep a balance in that, right? Don't ignore the facts, right? Don't get too much drawn. Trust me, it's not a good place to be, right? I have to do this for my ministry, but you don't want to be there all day, right? Because it can destroy you. It can make you so depressed. And I have felt so much darkness also coming in, the oppression, the depression. I have to deal with all that, right? But I'm not going to give up. God is there with me, right? But I do it for the sake of the future, right? And yeah, what I also learned is you cannot talk to nobody. If people don't agree with you, right, most of the time I just block them. I don't even go in a conversation anymore because I've learned that if you talk to someone who thinks you're racist, there's nothing you can say. There's nothing you can say that change their mind. They don't want to hear it. Just hand them over to Satan, right? They don't want to hear nothing. Just hand them over, right? That they may learn the hard way, right? In order that he might be saved, by the way, right? You White Girl says it's sad and hard to watch our nations and people being destroyed. Yes, it is, you White. But this is what they asked for, right? They are reaping what they have sowed. Thank you, Monica. Yes, it can be lonely, right? But just think about that day, right? How enormously relief it will be like, it will be so awesome. But we're not there yet, right? It can't be there yet because most people don't want it yet. Why would God give us something that most don't want, right? No, we have a far, long way to go, and it won't get better, right? But at least the empires who fell in the past, like the Byzantine Empire and Egypt, and at least white people still had a place to go, right? They all came together, they all regathered, they were all brought in the sheepfold in Europe, and Christian nations came from that, right? But nowadays, let's say that you say, I'm done with America. No, everywhere I go, I don't see anybody who looks like me no more, right? Um, I'm going. Well, where can you go? England? No, you don't want to be in England, right? Sweden? No. Belgium? No. France? No. There is no more place left to go, guys. There's no more country where you just have white Christian people. No, that is considered racist by Satan, right? That is supremacy, right? So there must be an afterlife, guys, because if there is no afterlife, then the God I serve would be very cruel because my life is not easy, guys. The things I feel all day long, the hate I get, I don't benefit from this at all, right? So, and then I die tomorrow, and that's it. What a meaningless thing would it all have been. No, there must be something coming, right? And therefore, also the people who reject God now, or like Revelation says, that cowards will not inherit the kingdom of God. Many people say homosexuals won't inherit the kingdom, and liars and murderers. No, yes, liars, right? If you stand for liberalism, you're a liar. If you don't accept that we are in a covenant, you're a liar. You won't see the kingdom of heaven, right? How about cowards? The cowardly won't inherit. How many Christians are cowards, right? who only care about the preservation of their own life, right? Even though Jesus said, if you lose your life for my sake, you will gain it. But if you want to hold on to your life, right, you will lose it, right? So we have a lot of good things to look forward to, right? But also, guys, like I said, if I die tomorrow, at least I died standing for something important, right? And yeah, I'm going to leave it here today, guys. And see you next week. And God bless you. Don't give up, right? And prayer helps, guys. Praying, right? Every day, pray. Be thankful for the good stuff, right? And ask for strength, right? At this moment, you cannot ask for change. It's not going to change for a while, but you can pray for strength, right? And for a new spirit that you wake up every time with new strength and a new spirit, right? Of hope, right? Christ in us, the hope of glory, guys. We have to have Christ in us again. That will give us the hope of glory. God bless you all.